Welcome to Echo 305, Study Session 2, Estimation of Cost in Project Evaluation. Introduction. This study session attempts to explain the problems involved in estimating the cost of any typical project. You will also examine the concept of cost overrun in terms of private and public manufacturing projects and the problems besetting it. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Define and use correctly the term in the bold, that is, project evaluation. 2. Explain the meaning of project cost and major factors influencing it. 3. Discuss the major causes of project cost overrun. Concept of project evaluation. Project evaluation constitutes an important aspect when taking an investment decision. It is quite important that before any decision involving commitment of resources is taken at all, evaluation of such project becomes imperative. The scope of project evaluation is, however, limited to two types of decisions. 1. It should help in deciding whether committing resources to a certain project is really worth it. Secondly, it should also assist in the determination of which project is to be selected. Generally, project evaluation is limited to the assessment of the expected benefit and the resources to be committed. Project cost. Generally, realistic cost estimates could pose a serious and big challenge to project investors and analysts because such estimates could actually cause a profitable project on paper turning into an unprofitable one. Thus, an unrealistic cost estimate may affect investment decisions either positively or negatively, as the case may be. Oftentimes, it is observed that most of the public projects in Nigeria are not usually kept within the original cost estimate by the time they are completed. The completion cost is usually higher and more than the estimated cost. The cost concept has been pointed at as responsible and being the main cause of this overrun in cost. That is, there is so much confusion in the literature about the concept. This explains why problems are usually encountered when estimating the cost. Apart from the cost concept, difficulty is also encountered as the relevant costs in project analysis relate to the future. What is cost? Cost can be defined as a consumption or sacrifice of scarce commodity for the purpose of generating goods. With this definition, cost can be well appreciated as an empirical and quantitative term used to describe a flow of values throughout a business enterprise. Following this definition, difficulty in generating reliable estimates could arise from an inadequate itemization of resources to be consumed and or inaccurate valuation of such items. Thus, in completing this itemization of resources, a breakdown of resources to be consumed may be necessary. Resources may be consumed gradually and over a long period or consumed immediately. While capital items fall under the first category, operating items fall under the latter, but both items are consumed voluntarily. Some of the resources are consumed obligatorily. Such items include levies, obsolescences through storage, fire, and theft. The chances of generating reliable estimate therefore are higher the more detailed the breakdown. The items to be included, however, are influenced both by the size and location of a project. They are both considered important in cost analysis. The size factor. The size of a project is so important that it is implicitly treated as an element in a cost function. The volume of output also is implicitly tied to the project plan size. Here, the cost function could be regarded as the nearest guide to the selection of project size. The cost function only provides, at best, a partial guide since project objection is not only to minimize cost but to maximize profit. It is only when demand is constant that cost minimization occurs. But since demand is rarely constant over time, there is the need to provide a size which will maximize profit over time. A decision must therefore be made whether to build a plant size based on current demand, estimated demand for the next few years, or estimated demand for a fairly long period. It is a problem for balancing the cost of excess capacity that may exist for some time against the benefit of future large-scale production when demand requires full capacity utilization. There are other factors which could lead to the choice of a plant site that does not promise a lowest average cost. Such factors include life of plant, construction period, geographical distribution of the market, expected growth in demand, possibility of operating a multi-shift system, preemptive consideration, location of project, identification of site options, and recommendation of the one which ensures the greatest attainment of the project objective is very important in evaluating project location. The objective for locating a project varies from one private and public society to another. Whatever the objective, the location exercise becomes meaningful only if site option exists. Basically, four types of projects are distinguishable based on the degrees of freedom that exist in the choice among site options. This is illustrated below in figure 2.1 based on whether projects are manufacturing or non-manufacturing or private or public. Degree of freedom in selecting project site. Location of private manufacturing projects. What is important in locating private manufacturing project is to find a site which minimizes the unit cost of production, or better still, the unit delivered cost of a given product. Identifying the most relevant cost element in this case is to assume what is more realistic rather than unrealistic assumptions of perfect competitive market structure. It is therefore essential to understand the centers of activities and the relationships among them to be able to identify the most relevant cost elements. Thus, for plant location, for example, there are two centers of interest. One, places from which necessary inputs will be obtained, and two, places from where products will be sold. Irrespective of where the plant is located relative to those two centers, three types of costs will be incurred. They are as follows. A. Cost of transporting the input to the plant. B. Cost of transporting the finished product to the market. C. Cost of processing the product. For locating private manufacturing projects, also, it is important to consider the relationship between the site candidates, markets, and raw materials. The candidates could actually come from the same location as the market or from the raw materials deposits or away from both. Three different possibilities occur when raw materials deposits and markets are separated and factory could be located in any of the three, namely A, where raw materials are deposited, B, where market is situated, and C. Away from both raw materials deposit and the market. Two different possibilities are, however, possible where both the raw materials deposit and the market are located in the same place. They are, namely, one, to either locate the factory where both are located, and B, to locate away from both the market and raw materials. Given these five different location possibilities, whether the entrepreneur selects the first three or the last two, the eliminating process could be conducted by considering the following. A. The nature of raw materials. This gives indication of material index. B. Importance of agglomerative stroke deglomerative forces such as banking information and research facilities. C. Processing costs, particularly of labor services. The above reasons can assist in identifying the most likely locations candidates, most especially through the use of this guide presented in the table below. From the table 2.1, no problem seems to be envisaged where the market and raw materials are found in the same place. The normal choice would be to locate the factory in the same place except for when compelled by the agglomerative factor as read. Three conditions can be summarized from the table above. 1. The material index is less than 1 and or the handling cost is R for the raw materials. Then raw materials deposit become a strong location candidate. 2. If material index is greater than 1 and or the handling cost is R for the finished product, then markets become a strong location choice candidate. 3. But if the influence of agglomerative forces is R, locating the project away from both market and raw materials becomes the rightful location choice candidate. Locating of public manufacturing projects. Unlike a private manufacturing project, the objective of the public in deciding the best plant sites is not merely dependent on minimization of commercial costs, but on integrating and growth goals, causes of project cost overall. It has become a common occurrence to observe completion cost of any typical project to be higher than the project cost estimate. This is mostly found in public executed projects. It is then concluded that whether or not this is inevitable may depend on the causes of the overall. Three major causes are therefore identified. They are namely 1. Rising costs, 2. Inadequate information, and 3. Inadequate analysis. Rising costs. This could actually result from rising prices and abrupt and unforeseen causes. The effect of rising prices can be mitigated through careful examination of the past behavior of prices. The effect of abrupt and unforeseen causes also can be handled through a general provision or insurance. Frankly speaking, it is difficult making allowance for an unexpected event. 2. Inadequate information. This is common in developing countries, particularly for pioneer projects. The cost estimate of these projects are mostly based on the experiences of similar projects in the developed countries. To minimize such error, data generated by similar projects in other countries should be used for cross-checking. To ensure that the data generated from similar projects are reliable is to ensure that A. Projects are similar, and B. Fluctuation in exchange rates are properly taken care of. Inadequate analysis. This may also result in project cost overrun. The best way of handling this type of problem is to carry out a detailed breakdown of costs and a thorough examination of each item to determine, where necessary, how much of such item would be needed and the likely future cost. Summary. In this study session, we were exposed to the concept of project cost and the major factors influencing it. The concept of project cost overrun was also discussed. It has become a common occurrence to observe completion cost of any typical project to be higher than the project cost estimate. This is mostly found in public executed projects. It is then concluded that whether or not this is inevitable may depend on the causes of the overall. Three major causes are therefore identified. They are, namely, running costs, inadequate information, and inadequate analysis. This is the end of study session 2. Thanks for listening.